Corey, why don't you get us caught up on Azure?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So I couldn't see how many raised their hand about running in the cloud, so I'll ask again, or this time I'll ask specifically for Azure. How many people are using Azure today? Okay, good. Yeah, good number. So those of you who are using Azure probably know Azure really is a complete cloud, right? We offer a huge amount of infrastructure services globally available, but we also offer a lot of platform services. And so you can deploy things like machine learning, IoT, website-based solutions. And it's been really exciting to see the amount of growth and the excitement of this wide variety of solutions. But complete for us doesn't just stop at the application services, but it also includes a set of security solutions, a set of enterprise-ready capabilities, trust, compliance, and support. And one of the really exciting things we're seeing in the usage in Azure and just all up in the cloud is for enterprises, this need for open source has really started expanding. And it's a huge area of investment for us, and why partnerships here with you and Chef has been really fantastic to continue to grow that. And Ken, with that, you're probably like, wow, that's awesome. I'm going to move everything I own into Azure tomorrow. And so I'll stop at your house and we'll make sure that happens.
Let's do that.
But for many of you, you may say, well, it's going to be a little bit of a slower process. We've got to decide when to move and how to move. And that's probably the best part about Azure is it really allows you to move at your own pace. We have a ton of hybrid solutions, Azure Stack and backup and so on, that you can use Azure sort of at any pace you want. And so,
why don't we drill down a little bit
let's go.
into
let's get deep, man.
Chef,
right?
Okay. And the work that we've had going on together, right?
Yeah,
so it's gone on for quite some time now. I think 5 years.
It's about 5 years now that we started. Yeah, we met over in Redmond or Seattle. I can't remember which one we started in, but across the bridge. And we started with a lot of focus on Azure specifically, and a lot of focus on making sure that Chef could deploy really easily and quickly in Azure. We have Chef Server available directly in our marketplace. You can also deploy the Chef agent into VMs really quickly. But we also expanded, and so a lot of engagement now on the Windows side, right? Making sure PowerShell and DSC work beautifully with Chef, so that you can sort of layer that in with all of the other fantastic services you guys have been talking about today.
We're really taking a lifecycle approach to the relationship, right?
That's right, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. And so the most recent stuff we've done has been on the dev tooling side, right? Visual Studio and TFS to be able to get that full deploy and manage side of the stack. Yeah.
So, open source.
Yeah.
You guys have been investing quite a bit on that front.
Yeah, you say it with a smile as if you're surprised here.
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, anybody who was here last year, Mark Russinovich got up on stage and he did a great job talking about just the amount of Linux usage on Azure.
Yeah.
But just talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. So even when he talked, it was maybe about a year ago, 12, 13, 14 months ago. It's been even bigger growth. Nearly 1 in 3 of the virtual machines running on Azure today are running Linux, which has been super exciting to see. But it sort of hasn't stopped there, right? Running open source on Azure is, of course, a very exciting aspect. But we're also bringing a lot of the Microsoft products into open source communities. So we just demoed at the Red Hat Summit a couple weeks ago SQL Server running on top of Red Hat, which was a pretty cool thing to see. And of course, bringing Windows to Docker and supporting Docker natively on Windows has also been fully in open source. So that's been really exciting stuff. Yeah.
So most of these organizations are in some state of transition.
Yeah.
And give a little bit of color on what you're seeing with this enterprise transition to the cloud. And
absolutely. I think when we see enterprises that get excited, and in fact, you had one on stage yesterday, excited to use sort of the combination of Chef and the cloud and Azure, like Alaska Airlines. We see this really strong passion around agility, right? It really comes down to how do I get things done quicker and better so I can compete better. And that's been really the focus that we've had with Azure, and I think why a lot of the enterprises are starting to move into the cloud is the combination of the agile infrastructure and then the bridge into the automation support that makes that agility actually work. And that's the thing you've been hearing about this entire conference, right? And Ken even showed a little bit on the previous slide. The just moving the infrastructure is not going to be enough, right? You absolutely need to go think through, how am I going to change my processes? How am I going to change the way that we work together? How am I going to secure the system while doing that? And that's really the challenge that we hear from enterprises. It's I want that agility that I've heard so much about. Like I hear these big startups and they deploy every day, and why can't we do that? And the goal is really, how do I get that agility without sacrificing security and without sacrificing the ability to collaborate? And that's where solutions like Chef Automate are going to be really awesome, coupled with something like Azure underneath.
Yeah, let's pull the thread a little bit on security.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
That's one area that, yesterday we showed the demo on stage of Chef Automate.
365, yeah.
Yeah, and showed SAML integrating into Office 365.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
Yeah, absolutely, Ken. The history at Microsoft has been a lot of focus on security, and it's something that we've done quite regularly since the early days of Active Directory. And that just continues and, in fact, grows as we move into the public cloud. We're starting to hear enterprises come in and say, wow, so you guys are protecting my underlying infrastructure in ways better than perhaps I'm doing myself, right? You have an identity solution that will detect if things have gone wrong, if people have abused my system. And you have tools like Security Center, which will allow me to detect if someone has breached my deployment. Maybe you're more secure than I am, and we're starting to actually see that bubble up, and that's where, again, the integration both at the infrastructure layer, but then up at the app layer as well with solutions like Inspect to be able to add that level of compliance, that level of control, while still, again, getting that agility that people are looking for.
Yeah, so looking in the crystal ball at kind of the future and where things are going.
Do we have a crystal ball? Is that okay? I don't know.
That'd be cool. But when you look at some of the investments you're making, you're doing a lot. Customers have a foot in this kind of legacy world, and they're transitioning to the new.
Yeah.
As a company, you're probably one of the better positioned out there to actually help them on that journey. But talk about what you think the future is going to look like in that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes back a little bit to the open solutions coupled with the hybrid solutions that we offer on Azure. I think the ability to have an Azure Stack solution, which enables the public Azure to effectively deploy in your on-prem environment, to give this hybrid story while then taking advantage of open solutions that can literally deploy anywhere, enable this mobility, right? And for quite some time, we expect the world to be hybrid. We do expect there to be this mix between on-prem and cloud, where there are solutions that just don't work, don't make sense to move into the public cloud, at least not yet. And so we're really excited to enable that. And like you said, I think we're in a unique position to offer a very, very hybrid world.
Right. Yeah. So, hey, Corey, you somehow got the Viresh video into your video.
I did. Yeah, you saw that? Yeah.
I saw
nice.
that. I was very impressed by that.
Yeah.
But we touched on Alaska Air earlier.
Yep.
But there are a few other joint customers that have been successful.
Yeah, so Alaska Air is fantastic, and it was awesome to see the keynote yesterday. He was amazing. I was a little bit, it was daunting to see him go. I was like, I don't want to follow that guy. So it was very funny. So I had to up my game. I practiced all night just to make sure that I could be almost as good as him, but I'm not. Anyway, and so he did a great job yesterday, and his usage of Azure has been fantastic. It again takes advantage of that complete solution. Their mobile app runs on top of Azure App Service, and of course the integration deeply with Chef's been great. We also actually have one even closer to home, and obviously Alaska Air is based in Seattle, but we have one even closer in MSN. So the internal Microsoft product MSN actually uses Chef as well for all of their deployment and management, and that of course layered again on top of Azure. And so that's another great example of they sort of took the plunge, they automated, and in fact I believe they started on-prem and then moved it into Azure once they had automated. And so a really good example of that ability to sort of move those things around.
Yeah, it's a great example. So anything else?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'd say, talking with a lot of enterprises, big and small, it's pick a project. If you haven't done it yet, you should. If you're starting for your first project or your 10th, pick a project, automate, and then find a way to get it going in the cloud. And if you haven't used Azure yet, I didn't see enough hands in the room, and I will be coming around to each one of you later who didn't raise their hand. Go get a free trial. It's easy to get started. Spin up a Linux VM. You may be surprised, and so have a good time with that. So Corey, thank you for being on stage. Absolutely, it's been fun. Appreciate you, one, as a customer, and two, importantly, as a significant partner. You bet. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ken. Thanks for having me. All right, thank you guys, absolutely.